Would you swim in a pool where dozens of people swear they've seen a ghost dragging swimmers beneath the? That pool isn't in a horror movie. It's on the Queen Mary, one of the most haunted ships in the world. From chilling screams echoing below deck to the legendary Lady in White, this ocean liner has become a graveyard of restless spirits. And the deeper you explore her decks, the darker her secrets become. To understand why so many believe the Queen Mary is cursed, you have to go back to her beginning. When she was first launched in the mid-1930s, the Queen Mary was not meant to inspire fear. She was meant to inspire awe. This was the golden age of ocean travel, when crossing the Atlantic wasn't about speed alone, but about status and spectacle. The Queen Mary was built to be the crown jewel of luxury liners. Picture vast dining halls lit by glittering chandeliers, staircases of polished brass, wood-paneled corridors gleaming with elegance, and the most refined service money could buy. She was more than just a ship. She was a floating palace. Celebrities, royalty, and the wealthy elite booked passage, turning each voyage into a glamorous social event. The Queen Mary was the pinnacle of sophistication, a symbol of human achievement riding the waves. But beneath that polished surface, darker times were approaching. In 1939, with the outbreak of World War II, the Queen Mary's purpose changed overnight. Her lavish interiors were stripped bare, her windows blacked out, her glamorous colors painted over in dull camouflage. She was no longer a playground for the rich. She was a weapon. Rechristened as a troop ship, she carried tens of thousands of soldiers across dangerous waters. Her immense speed made her almost untouchable, earning her the nickname the Gray Ghost. But even a ghost cannot escape tragedy. With so many lives crowded on board, accidents were inevitable. Soldiers died in freak mishaps. Crew members were crushed in the massive engine rooms, and in the chaos of war, not every man made it to his destination alive. One of the most devastating events tied to the Queen Mary occurred in 1942, when she accidentally collided with her escort ship, the HMS Curacoa. The smaller vessel was cut in two, sinking in less than 6 minutes. Of the more than 400 men aboard, over 300 were lost to the sea. The Queen Mary could not stop to help. Orders forbade her from slowing down, even for survivors. Imagine being one of those soldiers, left in the icy water, watching the Gray Ghost steam away into the horizon. For many, that was the last thing they ever saw. Deaths aboard the Queen Mary during the war were frequent, though not always recorded in detail. Some drowned, some were crushed, others simply disappeared. By the time the war ended, the Queen Mary carried with her the weight of more than 50 documented deaths at sea. When she was finally restored to civilian service, the glamour never fully returned. The ship had seen too much. After retiring from active duty, the Queen Mary found her permanent home in Long Beach, California, where she became a hotel, museum, and tourist attraction. But it wasn't long before whispers began to spread. Guests reported strange happenings in their rooms, doors opening on their own, lights flickering, and footsteps echoing down hallways where no one was walking. Staff began to notice it too. Entire crews would hear laughter in empty ballrooms or footsteps on abandoned decks. And then there was the pool. The first-class swimming pool, once a glittering showpiece, quickly gained a reputation as one of the ship's most haunted locations. Visitors described wet footprints appearing on the deck, long after the pool had been drained and closed. Some claimed to see the figure of a woman in a white gown drifting along the poolside before vanishing into thin air. Others heard splashing as though someone were swimming, yet the pool itself was bone dry. The Lady in White, as she came to be called, became one of the most famous apparitions tied to the Queen Mary. Guests and staff alike have reported her presence, gliding silently through corridors or appearing suddenly in reflections. She is beautiful, ghostly, and utterly terrifying to encounter in the stillness of night. But she is not alone. In various cabins, photographs have captured orbs of light floating mysteriously, hovering near beds and ceilings. Some guests who stayed overnight woke to find icy cold spots in their rooms, patches of freezing air that had no explanation. Others described the feeling of being watched, even touched, as though invisible hands lingered too close. One woman claimed she felt the mattress beside her sink as though someone had lain down next to her, but she was completely alone. These reports aren't just scattered tales from overactive imaginations. They've been collected for decades, documented by paranormal investigators, journalists, and even skeptical scientists who came aboard looking for answers. Again and again, the ship seems to defy explanation. And perhaps most disturbing are the sounds. In the quiet of the night, deep in the bowels of the ship, crew members have recorded strange audio phenomena, muffled voices, desperate whispers, even distress signals calling out as though transmitted from beyond the grave. In one chilling recording, a voice repeatedly cried for help, though no one was present. The Queen Mary had transformed from a glamorous liner into a haunted relic, a place where history and horror overlap, where every deck creaks with memory, and where those who died at sea may still wander. And yet, this is only the beginning. Because the further you go into the Queen Mary's history, the darker the encounters become. The cold spots intensify, the voices grow louder, and the line between the living and the dead seems to blur. Would you dare keep exploring? The Queen Mary's reputation as one of the most haunted ships in the world doesn't rest on rumors alone. Entire teams of paranormal investigators have spent nights aboard her, braving the endless corridors and pitch-black engine rooms, each hoping to find evidence of what so many guests have described. The engine room is a favorite target. Massive steel machinery looms like silent giants, and the temperature here fluctuates in ways that defy logic. Cold spots drop suddenly to freezing, then vanish, leaving investigators baffled. Many claim to feel a heavy pressure in their chest, as if the air itself resists them. Some believe this is the spirit of a young sailor who was crushed to death by a watertight door during a drill. According to reports, his ghost still lingers, replaying those final moments of panic. Visitors describe hearing metallic clangs when no equipment is moving, or catching sight of a figure darting between shadows before dissolving into thin air. Further along the ship, in the passenger cabins, strange photographs have been collected for decades. Bright spheres of light, commonly called orbs, float near the walls and ceilings, captured even by skeptics who expected nothing. Some investigators argue these are signs of energy, remnants of restless spirits trying to manifest. For guests staying overnight, the experience is even more personal. One couple woke to find their cabin door swinging open and shut on its own. Another swore they heard boots marching in the hallway outside, even though their section of the ship was locked for the night. And then, there are the voices. Electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, has been recorded in multiple areas of the ship. Investigators have captured what sound like whispers, pleas, and even cries for help. One chilling recording seemed to repeat a single word: drowning. Another captured a phrase no one present had spoken: get out. For many, these moments are proof that the Queen Mary is more than a relic. She is alive with the echoes of those who perished within her steel walls. But nowhere is her haunted reputation more infamous than the pool. Though drained of water long ago, the pool area remains a centerpiece of paranormal activity. Visitors describe the unmistakable sound of splashing, as though invisible swimmers still stroke through the water. Wet footprints have appeared on the tile, trailing off into nothing. Some witnesses have even seen apparitions, women in bathing suits from another era, children giggling, then vanishing the moment they're approached. And for those who dare to test the legends, the pool has delivered its most terrifying story yet. During a late-night investigation, a group of ghost hunters decided to explore the pool area with a waterproof camera mounted on a GoPro. To test the stories of spectral swimmers, one investigator climbed into the drained basin, moving slowly through the empty shell of the pool. For several minutes, nothing happened. Just silence, broken by the sound of his own footsteps echoing off the tiles. Then something changed. The investigator later reported feeling as though the air had thickened around him, pressing in on his chest. The GoPro footage showed him stumbling slightly, gasping for breath. And then, for a split second, the camera captured it. A pale, translucent hand reaching up from the tiles beneath him, seizing his ankle. He was yanked down with force, collapsing onto the floor of the empty pool as though dragged underwater. His team rushed to pull him up, but the footage revealed something even they hadn't seen at the time. Behind him, a shadowy figure loomed, humanoid but distorted, vanishing into the air the moment he scrambled free. Skeptics argue the footage could have been staged, a trick of editing or lighting. But those who've studied the tape insist the raw files show no tampering. The hand, the pull, the collapse, it all happened exactly as it appeared. To this day, the video remains one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence tied to the Queen Mary's haunted legacy. So what does it all mean? Is the Queen Mary simply a historic ship creaking under the weight of her long service? Or is she something more? A prison of steel and rivets, trapping the souls of those lost aboard her. Her history is undeniable. She carried the glamorous elite in peacetime, and she ferried soldiers to their fate in war. Over 50 deaths were recorded on her decks, and countless more at sea when tragedy struck. It is no surprise that so many believe her hallways echo with voices of the past. Yet belief is a powerful thing. Some argue that the Queen Mary is not haunted by ghosts, but by memory itself. That the weight of history creates its own energy, and that those who step aboard simply feel the residue of decades of joy, fear, sorrow, and death, all pressed into the iron frame of the ship. Whether this energy manifests as real apparitions or simply the power of suggestion is up for debate. But for those who have walked her halls in the stillness of night, there is little doubt. They've seen figures vanish into darkness. They've heard voices whisper their names. They've felt cold fingers brush across their skin in rooms where no one else was standing. The Queen Mary remains docked in Long Beach, her decks open for tours, her cabins available for guests brave enough to stay overnight. Thousands flock to her every year, drawn by curiosity, history, or the promise of a brush with the supernatural. Some leave with nothing but photographs. Others leave convinced they've encountered something beyond explanation. And now the question is yours. Would you set foot in the Queen Mary's haunted pool? Would you dare to stand alone in her engine room, waiting to hear the screams of sailors who never made it home? Or would you keep your distance, letting the dead rest in their iron tomb at sea? The Queen Mary waits, silent but never still. A monument of history, a graveyard of souls, and perhaps one of the most haunted places on Earth.